Hey, it's me again. This time I'm coming to you with a video from a YouTube channel called 5-Minute News. It's about a very significant conference that took place back in September 2024, and it's bringing together psychologists, doctors, scientists, mental health experts from around the world. They've been retired and everything. These are like the top notch of the world. And they came together to discuss the potential dangers of a second Trump presidency. And this event was organized by Dr. Bandy X. Lee. She's a forensic psychiatrist. She's known for her outspoken views on mental health implications of political leadership. And of course, she had to face some professional repercussions after her public statements regarding Trump's mental fitness. But nonetheless, this is so important that she continued. And so this conference, it features discussions on like the psychological profile of Donald Trump, basically. And these experts are trying to express the concerns about traits associated with malignant narcissism. Okay, that's what he has, malignant narcissism. That's what that means is, so malignant narcissism is a severe personality disorder characterized by antisocial behavior, lack of empathy, and a propensity for deceit. And there's this psychologist, his name's John Gartner, and he's the founder of the Duty to Warn organization, and he's been very vocal about Trump's mental health, and he previously gathered signatures from mental health professionals warning of the dangers posed by Trump's psychological state. And here's the host of the YouTube channel, and he's going to introduce to us the importance of this all, so let's just get through it.
Whilst Donald Trump was doing this...
Got no muscle. We need a little muscle. Then they bring in another one. But he's got a weak face. He looks weak. No, these guys have the whole package.
A group of mental health professionals...
He's so fucking weird.
...were doing this.
He meets criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, which is kind of obvious. Meets criteria...
Which is kind of obvious.
Diagnostic criteria for the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Manual for Antisocial Personality Disorder, meets criteria for psychopathic personality disorder, which is a little bit different from antisocial, gets more at the things like the lack of remorse and the internal psychological traits that are involved, meets criteria for paranoid personality disorder. And that's not even getting into the delusional disorders that a couple of people mentioned, including grandiose and paranoid delusions.
Yes, on Friday, September 27, an expert group of 18 non-partisan experts representing psychiatry, law, political science, economics, history, journalism, climate and nuclear science gathered at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. for a conference entitled The More Dangerous State of the World and the Need for Fit Leadership, subtitled The Much More Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. This is the second time the group has met to share their concerns. The first was just ahead of the 2020 election. Their analysis of the dangers of a future Trump presidency was terrifying. The takeaway is that this is not a drill. It's a national emergency. There is consensus that Trump is a threat not only to democracy, but also a national security threat to the world. Again, this is not a political position. It's a medical one. But the event itself and the findings of its panel and their analysis of the threat has been censored by the corporate media. Ask yourself why not a single news organization has covered this important conference, or...
That is such an important thing to say. God knows why. There's probably the most petty reasons why, but how? How did we not cover this in all the mainstream media?
Its recommendations. Donald Trump turned the world upside down. The conflict we see not just politically across the United States, but in Ukraine and Gaza, Iran and Lebanon, can be attributed to his presidency. We can see that legal methods have failed to stop him, political approaches have failed, and military means have not been able to prevent the dangerousness of Donald Trump.
How has Donald Trump been so invincible? Why is he like the luckiest bastard in the world? I can't stand it.
Trump left up.
Anyways,
our work as military physicians.
I'm going to be fast forwarding through a lot of this because it's like 25 minutes long, but I'm going to put the links below so you can check it out yourself. I highly recommend doing so. It's very informational.
We were called on to a request of our leaders to say, should this person be cleared here, have a security clearance? Can this person be put back into the cockpit? Should this surgeon go into the OR? We have what we call the nuclear assurity program. Should this person have access to nuclear weapons? Now, that was the call of the leader. That was the decision of the commander to make, to decide who was going to be assigned where, what their responsibilities were, and what authority they were going to have. Our position, my position as a physician, was to evaluate, to advise that leader about what I knew about that person's health and their mental health, and to see if there was if there was a problem in the way that that person was currently experiencing that may interfere with executing those duties. And you heard a very elegant statement from Admiral Smith about what it takes to have a senior leader. The interesting problem that we have is that that our Congress has been AWOL on taking the one step that they could take to best decide, at least start to explore what those criteria could be for what a president.
For example, when Kamala and Trump were supposed to, reveal or expose their medical records, she did no problem. No problem. It was fine. He never did. Why was that not a bigger deal? That's criteria. Why is he allowed to not do what is not recommended, required? That's like me, getting the job and them saying, okay, take your drug test, and me saying no thanks, and everybody be like, okay. Like, that should be a big deal. Release your medical records. That was already like the biggest red flag.
Should, in fact, show and demonstrate to be effective. And that because they have not taken on being able to further specify and define Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. Paul Summergrad, a former president of the APA, and I wrote about this in 2018.
So this same group of experts, they've been trying to warn us for years.
He said very clearly that this was something that was extremely important as we looked out. I mean, we've had a number of presidents that have really already, we know, have had health problems. It doesn't take a lot of imagination, really, to say, at what point in time are we going to have an individual as commander-in-chief who has some problem that clearly is impairing their capacity to function? And who is going to be able to discern that? Well, of course, it's the immediate advisors. It's the people around that leader who say, he doesn't track. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's not inquisitive. Frankly, as it was with the case that people felt about Richard Nixon, he doesn't show the character. He doesn't have the temperament. He doesn't have the integrity. Those people need to speak up. And when they speak up, that goes to the Congress, and the Congress goes through the process of the 25th Amendment. Well, right. We have...
Anyways, I'm going to fast forward to the next guy, because the next guy is the one who, he's the cult expert of the world. He knows cults like the back of his hand, and he recently wrote a book on the cult of MAGA.
My fellow military officers and senior leaders, this is what we think is right. It is our country, and to speak up about it.
Brainwashing and mind control.
Speak up about it.
I've written 4 books, and I wrote this one 5 years ago, The Cult of Trump.
Oh my God, it was 5 years ago he wrote it. I mean, this is, I got to get this book.
And people were not ready to understand that brainwashing and mind control is real. And members of the panel said, how is this possible? My subjective experience, plus 48 years of helping people get out of cults, says this is a dissociative disorder.
This guy has been studying cults for 48 years. That's so crazy. But I listen to everything this guy has to say, because this guy has the best and most useful information.
300.15 in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual
information
of the American Psychiatric
for any of us dealing with family members or friends or whoever that are in this cult.
Association that names cults and brainwashing. And there's mental health professionals are not taught about this disorder or what can be done to help people recover. This is a public health emergency. We need to preventively educate everyone about how to tell the difference between ethical influence and unethical influence. This is called the influence continuum. It's part of my doctoral dissertation. It's on my website, freedomofmind.com. And people need to have psychoeducation. We need preventive education. We need to train people how to do interventions with people who've been brainwashed. People are asking, what do we do after? No matter what happens, whether Trump gets elected, we need a massive psychoeducational effort. And we need recovery. We need to make it okay to say, I was in that cult. And I've been trying to model that. We do need to think about what happens after the election, because we have to depolarize our country. And
it's going to take a lot of work, annoying work too.
The only way to do it is for people who have loved ones who've been radicalized into MAGA to understand these folks have been brainwashed, but there's a way out, and people are waking up and leaving and talking out. There's a group called Leaving MAGA. We need to create an off-ramp to destigmatize. We need to stop calling people morons and idiots who are in a cult and speak to them, build common ground.
Yep, even though they've made it almost impossible. They make it so difficult, but yep.
And ask them good questions that make them think. But the critical thing is that if you attack the leader, the doctrine, or the policy head on and try to argue facts, it activates the cult identity to get defensive. They feel persecuted. It's an ill-advised strategy. How can I know if I've been brainwashed? And step one is disconnect from all of your sources of influence. Take a time out. Go in the woods. Don't be on your frickin' phone 8 hours a day, constantly getting digital indoctrination with AI and social media. We respond to love, kindness, compassion. We need to reach out to people we know. That's the first step. It can't be done on public media. It's a one-on-one thing. And believe me, people are having doubts. They may not tell you, but they're having doubts, and there is hope.
Legal methods have failed.
So I hope that was even helpful, because the fact is that they are having, even today, this was before he was even sworn in, or this is before he even won this stupid fucking election, but this is so important. I mean, I can't stress that enough.
Legal approaches have
this is that bad bitch. She's the one who put everything together.
failed, and military
She's the one who sounded the alarms.
means have not been able to prevent the many dangers that we have encountered. And so I would like to ask each of the panelists what message they would like to give to the public, because that seems
friends.
Shoot, sorry.
And that has been evidenced by what is already taking place. The dictatorship has begun. When you tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her body, that is a dictatorship.
For real, dog.
When you tell schools what books they can and cannot have available to read in their libraries, that is a dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
When you make it very clear that you have no interest in maintaining the laws that already exist for same-sex marriage, that is a dictatorship. So there is much that can be dismantled beyond national security that will affect each and every one of us throughout the United States and through.
Do you want to return to a period of vengeful impulsiveness and total chaos that is not only a threat to our national security abroad, but it's a threat to our personal freedoms at home? Or do you want to vote for an individual who does have the judgment, does have the temperament, and does have the integrity to be a fully qualified
He's talking about Kamala. This is so accurate because she is qualified, and not only that, but she would have taken damn good care of this country. She would have taken care of all of us. She's everything it takes. I feel like there's nobody else on the face of this earth that's more prepared to fix all of our shit right now than Kamala Harris. So where everyone went wrong is their pettiness. They're just like, oh, she's black, oh, she's a woman, oh, she blah, 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 blah. It's like, wake the heck up, man.
And completely capable commander-in-chief on day one. Those are the choices in the future of our country.
Basically, white, male, understandable in some ways.
Those are the choices in the future.
Basically, white, male.
Sorry, hold on. Let me rewind it a little bit.
Who the Trump voters are. They're basically white, male, less educated, high school or less education. But in others, there are people who feel they have lost relative status because of the increased democratization that occurred in America when, with the civil rights legislation, blacks increased their status. Segregation was outlawed, and disenfranchisement was outlawed and so forth. And the increased status that women have had with the women's movement. I think that a lot of white males have felt they had lost relative superiority and relative status. And Trump comes along and says, I will restore, I'll make America great again, which is an appeal to go back to the past before all these civil rights laws and the changes to undo all the various forms of misogyny and sexism and homophobia and so forth. So I think that if we're going to understand the psychology involved, I think that's true. And finally, I totally agree. It's the worst thing we can do is refer to the Trump voters as deplorables. I think we have to
even though they clearly are.
Recognize they're basically the same as the rest of us. They're as intelligent. They're very, they're not psychopaths inherently. They're just following a psychopath, and so we have to find a way to be, I think, understanding and generous and treat people with respect, even when we think they're making great mistakes and really harming themselves as well as other people.
When you tell people they're in danger, it tends to mobilize in some people more their paranoid core. And the more we're aware of the fact that danger can be constructed, and we can attack all of Trump's personality disorders, but the fact is that he appeals to people, and we have to understand it not in a kind way, but in a technical way, that there is more paranoia in the population than is acknowledged. And
That is so, all these points that all of them are making are so on point. Like, it's fear that's driving everything. I mean, that's the epitome of brainwashing. It's putting this fear into you, and then I have the answers to the fear for it to go away type of thing. And he's good at fear because he has naturally paranoia going on inside of him.
Mobilize it, and we don't know how far it will continue to hold against a black woman who presents herself as entirely reasonable, speaking to their needs, and will it overcome people's fear that they are going to be displaced by people of color, that they are going to lose their prestige and their dominance. So I think we have to not be so respectful of people who follow Trump, but we have to understand that they're in the throes of paranoid mechanisms.
You can read more about the conference at dangerouscase.org and join me for the...
And there you go. I mean, God, that's just so true. And it's better to hear it from these top experts of the whole world, the whole globe, that rather than just, regular people like me and you. And the timing of the conference, it coincided with the heightened public discourse of Trump's mental fitness, and as evidenced by an open letter published in the New York Times by over 200 posed by Trump's personality disorder, okay, describing him as deceitful, destructive, deluded, and dangerous. And the collective efforts of those professionals aim to inform the public about the potential risks associated with leadership style marked by such psychological traits. But, nonetheless, many just didn't want to hear it, or they thought it was this and that. Or, you know what? My personal opinion is it's a little too intelligent, because they sport the fact that they don't care about intelligent things or truth. And I think that all these things, the ways that we tried warning the public weren't sitting well, because they're like, well, that's just too many fancy words, and oh, you think you're better than me kind of thing. But I think if we dumb it down enough for them, that it might actually finally get a handle on them. But another thing, what was I going to say about dumbing it down? Shoot. I can't remember now. I had a very important fact and it just left me right now, because Fez always distracts me and he's always fucking up here just like, oh god. Anyways, God, it was such a good point I just had to make. Fez, you fucking ruined it. Come here. Boy. This boy is so heavy. God, he ruins all my videos. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Prometheus and Bob, how like the monkey always ruins everything, and the aliens like coming down to teach him the ways of the world, of the earth, and the monkey. I mean, the aliens trying to teach the caveman like the ways of the world, and the monkey comes and ruins it every time. Well, this is the monkey over here. My baby. Anyways, you guys, I hope that this video brought something good to your attention. Something important to your attention. I hope that you check these videos out. There's 2 videos. I'm going to put the descriptions below, and that's it for now. Okay, bye.
Do not come. Do not come.